The morning sun cast long shadows across the dig site as Dr. Kwon Minho brushed dirt from another piece of crystalline metal. He had been working on Kepler 442b for 3 years now, and most days brought nothing but disappointment. The planet was supposed to be empty, just another world where humans could build colonies without worrying about disturbing alien ruins. But today felt different. The metal fragment in his hands was warm to the touch, which was strange. Most artifacts from dead civilizations were cold, lifeless things. This piece hummed with energy as if it was waiting for something. Kwon called over his assistant, Park Sona, who had been mapping the site's grid pattern. "Look at this," he said, holding up the fragment. "Have you ever seen anything like it?" Sona took the piece and immediately dropped it, yelping in surprise. "It shocked me, but not like electricity. It felt like it recognized me." They worked more carefully after that, using tools instead of their bare hands. By midday, they had uncovered what looked like a doorway buried 10 meters underground. The door was covered in symbols that made Kwon's heart race. He had studied ancient writing systems from across the galaxy, but these symbols looked almost familiar. They reminded him of very old human script, the kind used on Earth thousands of years ago. But that was impossible. Humans had only been traveling to other stars for a few hundred years. This site was clearly much older. Kwon activated his communication device and sent an urgent message to Professor Lee Ji-won back on Earth. He attached photos of the symbols and waited for a response. 3 hours later, his device buzzed with an incoming call. "Minho," Professor Lee's voice crackled through the speaker. "Where exactly did you find these?" 10 meters down in what appears to be a sealed chamber. "Professor, I know how this looks, but the dating suggests these symbols are over 100,000 years old." There was a long silence. Then Professor Lee spoke again, his voice tense. "I need you to stop digging immediately and wait for backup. I'm sending a full archaeological team. And Minho, don't share these images with anyone else yet." The next week passed slowly. Kwon and Sona continued to map the site, but followed orders not to dig deeper. When the backup team finally arrived, it included not just archaeologists but also linguists, quantum physicists, and even a representative from the Galactic Archaeological Council named SciFiPrime. SciFiPrime was a Valkyrie, one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. His crystalline skin reflected the planet's sunlight as he examined Kwon's findings. The alien's 4 eyes moved independently as he studied the symbols. "These markings are clearly human in origin," SciFiPrime said in perfect Earth standard. "But humans are a young species. You have been spacefaring for less than 500 years. These readings suggest an age that predates your species' recorded history by millennia." Dr. Bae Tae-hyun, the team's expert in ancient languages, had been working day and night to translate the symbols. On the 3rd day after the team's arrival, he made a breakthrough. "It's definitely an early form of human writing," he announced to the gathered researchers. "But the grammar structure is more advanced than anything we have records of. It's as if our ancestors knew things we forgot how to say." The real discovery came when they finally opened the buried chamber. Inside, they found a room filled with crystalline data storage units, each one humming with the same warm energy as the door fragment. The technology was clearly human in design, but far more advanced than anything modern humans could create. Kwon connected a portable scanner to one of the storage units. The device immediately came alive, displaying star charts that showed the entire galaxy. But these weren't just maps. They were territorial markers, showing vast regions of space marked with human symbols, regions that were now controlled by alien civilizations. "This can't be right," whispered Sona, staring at the display. "According to this map, humans once controlled half the galaxy." The data kept coming. Technical blueprints for technologies that current human science couldn't understand. Records of settlements on worlds that were now alien homeworlds. And most disturbing of all, genetic profiles showing that many alien species had been deliberately modified by someone with an advanced understanding of biological engineering. SciFiPrime had gone very quiet during the data review. His crystalline skin had turned a pale blue color that Kwon had learned meant the alien was frightened. "There are references here to something called the Great Silence," Dr. Bae said, reading from another data crystal. "It appears that ancient humans chose to disappear from galactic civilization. They didn't die out or get conquered. They deliberately hid themselves." The Valkyrie representative finally spoke. "If these records are accurate, then every assumption we have about galactic history is wrong. My species has ruled the Outer Rim for 20,000 years, but according to these files, we were given that territory by humans who decided they no longer wanted it. Professor Lee had been studying a particular set of files that contained biological data. His face was pale as he looked up from his scanner. Everyone needs to see this. These genetic records, they're not just about ancient humans. They show that modern humans have been genetically modified too. Our DNA has artificial blocks in it, as if someone deliberately made us less than what we used to be. The chamber held more secrets. They found records of other human archaeological sites scattered across known space, all of them hidden until now. The files suggested that the sites would only become visible when humans were ready to find them. As if ancient humans had set up a test for their descendants. Over the following days, reports began coming in from other human colonies. Archaeological sites were appearing on dozens of worlds, all containing similar evidence of ancient human civilization. The pattern was always the same: advanced technology, star charts showing human control, and references to the Great Silence. The galactic community was beginning to take notice. Representatives from major alien governments started demanding answers from human authorities. Some were curious. Others were clearly frightened by the implications. Quan spent his evening staring up at the alien stars, wondering what his ancestors had been like. The evidence suggested they had been incredibly advanced, capable of crossing the galaxy at will and reshaping entire worlds. They had been powerful enough to control vast regions of space, yet they had chosen to give it all up. The question that kept him awake at night was simple. Why had they hidden themselves? And more importantly, what had made them think it was time for modern humans to discover the truth? As he looked up at the stars that night, Quan couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something that would explain why humanity's ancient past was suddenly revealing itself. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not the young, harmless species they appeared to be. They were the ancient ones, and their time of hiding was ending. The surrender of the Velkari hegemony came without warning. Ambassador Park Gina was preparing for another day of careful negotiations when the message arrived. The entire Velkari government was formally requesting an audience with awakened humanity, not as enemies but as children seeking to understand their parents. The meeting took place aboard a neutral station in the Vega system, but there was nothing neutral about the atmosphere. The Velkari delegation arrived in ships that had been stripped of all weapons as a gesture of trust. Their leader, SciFiPrime, approached the human delegation with movements that seemed more like worship than diplomacy. "We have searched our most ancient records," Zethmar said, his crystalline skin shifting through colors that indicated deep emotional distress. "We found stories we thought were myths, tales of the sky builders who taught us to shape crystal and gave us the ability to touch quantum fields with our minds." Dr. Shin Johan had brought genetic analysis equipment to the meeting, and his findings confirmed what the awakening had already revealed. "Your species shows clear signs of artificial enhancement. Your quantum-sensitive organs, your crystalline biology, even your extended lifespans, all of it was carefully designed by beings who understood genetics better than we do even now." The Velkari delegation listened in silence as Dr. Shin explained how their ancestors had been uplifted from primitive crystal formations into sapient beings. The process had taken thousands of years, with human guardians carefully guiding each step of their evolution. "But why did you abandon us?" asked Sekthira, the Velkari navigator who had begun manifesting awakened abilities. "If you loved us as you claim, why did you leave us to develop alone?" Ambassador Park felt the weight of ancient memories stirring in her awakened consciousness. She could sense the shepherd's knowledge flowing through her, understanding decisions made 100,000 years ago. "Because love sometimes means letting go," she said gently. "Our ancestors realized that their presence was preventing you from growing into your own unique greatness. They stepped back so you could become truly yourselves, not just copies of what they thought you should be." The revelation spread quickly throughout Velkari space. Within weeks, their entire civilization was undergoing a transformation, similar to humanity's awakening. Ancient abilities dormant in their genetics began to surface. Velkari children started demonstrating powers their parents had never imagined possible. But the Velkari surrender was just the beginning. Reports began arriving from across the galaxy as other species made the same discovery. The peaceful Zephyrians found records of human teachers who had helped them develop their telepathic abilities. The warlike Gorvans discovered that their incredible physical strength had been genetically enhanced by beings who wanted them to be able to protect weaker species. Each species faced the same shock. Everything they thought they knew about their own history was wrong. They weren't ancient civilizations that had developed naturally. They were humanity's adopted children, carefully nurtured and then allowed to find their own paths. The psychological impact was immense. Several alien governments collapsed as their populations struggled to understand what it meant to discover their gods were real and had been living among them as equals. Some species, like the proud Thracians, initially rejected the evidence and tried to maintain their independence. Emperor Thekvar broadcast a defiant message to his people. Even if these humans created us, we are no longer their property. We have grown beyond whatever they intended us to become. We will not bow to beings who abandoned us. But the evidence was overwhelming. Dr. Yoon Mirei, working with awakened human archaeologists, had found the original genetic laboratories where ancient humans had worked to uplift primitive species. The facilities contained detailed records of each species' development, including personal notes from the human scientists who had overseen their growth. The most moving discovery was a message recorded by an ancient human named Dr. Kim Yejin, who had worked with early Thracian development. Today we help the Thracians develop their enhanced tactical intelligence. They are such a proud species, so eager to prove themselves worthy of the gifts we've given them. I hope someday they understand that they were always worthy. We enhanced them not because they were lacking, but because we could see the incredible potential already within them. When this message was broadcast across Thracian space, the effect was immediate. Proud warriors began weeping as they realized their entire culture of proving worthiness had been built on a misunderstanding. They had never needed to prove themselves to their creators, because their creators had already seen their worth. The surrender of the Thracian Empire came 3 days later. Captain Lim, So-young was exploring the galactic core when she encountered the oldest known civilization, the mysterious architects. These beings were so ancient that other species considered them legends. They existed as pure energy, inhabiting structures built from collapsed stars. The architects communicated through direct transfer of concepts rather than language. And their first message to humanity was a shock. We greet our Creator's children with joy. The long wait is ending. The revelation that even the architects were connected to humanity changed everything. Dr. Bae Taehyun's analysis revealed that the architects were descended from Earth's earliest bacteria, enhanced by human scientists millions of years ago to survive in the extreme environment of the galactic core. You gave us the gift of consciousness when we were nothing but chemical reactions, the architects explained to Captain Lim. We have spent eons preparing for your return, building the infrastructure that will be needed when the Devourers arrive. The galactic core, it turned out, was not just the architect's home. It was a massive fortress, designed by beings who could see millions of years into the future. Ancient humans and the early architects had worked together to create defenses that would protect all life in the galaxy from external threats. But the defenses required awakened consciousness to operate. Both human and alien minds working together, each species contributing their unique enhanced abilities to power weapons and shields that existed partially outside normal reality. As species after species acknowledged their connection to humanity, a new understanding spread across the galaxy. The ancient myths and legends that each civilization had developed weren't just stories. They were genetic memories, carried in DNA that had been modified by beings who wanted their children to remember where they came from. The suppression. Compact dissolved as its member species realized they were fighting against the very beings who had made their existence possible. Instead of war, they began preparing for something far more important: the defense of all life in the galaxy. Dr. Yang Hyun, now serving as Earth's chief xenobiologist, made the final discovery that explained humanity's plan. Deep analysis of the genetic modifications showed that each species had been enhanced with specific abilities needed to combat the approaching Devourers. The Felkari's quantum sensitivity would allow them to detect the Devourer's approach through folded space. The Thracians' tactical intelligence would coordinate defensive strategies across the entire galaxy. The Zephyrians' telepathic abilities would maintain communication between widely separated fleets. Even the smallest species had been given unique gifts that would prove essential in the coming battle. Our ancestors didn't just uplift random species, Dr. Yang explained to the reformed Galactic Council. They created a galaxy-wide defense system, with each species serving as specialized components. We are not separate civilizations. We are all parts of a single vast organism designed to protect life itself. The galaxy was no longer afraid of awakened humanity. Instead, they were grateful to finally understand their purpose. The children were remembering who they were and why they had been created. The real test was yet to come, but for the first time in 100,000 years, the galaxy was united in purpose. Humanity had awakened not as conquering gods, but as gardeners whose children were finally ready to help tend the garden they had planted so long ago. Captain Nam Hejin stared at the massive structure floating in space before her ship. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. Kwan's discovery, and now ancient human sites were appearing everywhere. This one was different, though. It had materialized out of nowhere near the edge of human space, as if it had been waiting for them to find it. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Its surface was covered in the same symbols that Kwan had found, but these were glowing with a soft blue light. More importantly, the structure was sending out signals that only human ships could detect. Alien vessels reported seeing nothing but empty space. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Ryu Hana from the sensor station. "The structure is responding to our approach. Power readings are increasing across its entire surface." Nam had been ordered by Earth Defense Command to investigate the anomaly with her exploration vessel, the Dauntless. Her crew was small but experienced, and they had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be dangerous. Nobody knew what ancient humans might have left behind. "Take us closer," Nam ordered, "but keep our shields at maximum. If our ancestors could hide a moon-sized station for 100,000 years, they probably had good reasons." As the Dauntless approached, sections of the structure began to open like flower petals. Inside, they could see docking bays that looked designed for human ships. The invitation was clear, but Nam hesitated. Ancient technology could be unpredictable. Dr. Choi Dongwoo, the ship's archaeologist, was studying the readings from his instruments. "Captain, the energy signatures are definitely human in origin, but far more advanced than anything we have now. I'm detecting what appears to be artificial intelligence networks throughout the structure." The decision was made for them when a gentle tractor beam reached out from the structure and began guiding the Dauntless toward one of the docking bays. The beam was impossible to resist, but it felt protective rather than threatening. Inside the docking bay, they found breathable atmosphere and Earth-normal gravity. The walls were covered in displays showing star charts and technical diagrams. Everything was clearly designed for humans, but the technology was centuries ahead of anything they knew. Nam led a small team into the structure, leaving half her crew aboard the ship as a precaution. The corridors were wide and well lit, with the same glowing symbols providing direction markers. As they walked deeper into the station, they began to hear something unexpected. Voices. The voices were speaking in an ancient form of human language, but their translation devices could understand most of it. The speakers seemed to be discussing maintenance schedules and system status reports. It sounded like a working facility, not an abandoned ruin. They followed the voices to a vast central chamber filled with crystalline pillars that stretched from floor to ceiling. Each pillar contained swirling patterns of light that looked almost like trapped thoughts. At the center of the chamber stood a figure that made the entire team freeze in shock. It looked human, but not quite. Taller than normal, with eyes that held too much intelligence. Its skin had a faint luminescent quality, and when it moved, it seemed to flow rather than walk. Most disturbing of all, it was clearly ancient but showed no signs of aging. "Welcome, children of humanity," the figure said in perfect modern Earth standard. "We have been waiting for your return for 97,412 years." Nam forced herself to step forward, though every instinct told her to run. "What are you? Are you human?" "I am what humans became before the Great Silence. I am a memory keeper, designed to preserve knowledge until it was needed again. You may call me Keeper Jiwan, though that was not my original name." The Keeper gestured to the crystalline pillars around them. "These contain the memories and knowledge of your ancestors. Everything they learned about science, technology, and the nature of existence itself. It has all been waiting for you to develop enough to understand it. Dr. Choi stepped closer to one of the pillars, his scanning equipment going wild with readings. This is incredible. The data storage capacity of just one of these crystals exceeds our entire planetary network. Your ancestors were not like you, Keeper Jiwon continued. They had evolved beyond the physical limitations that still bind you. They could manipulate matter with their thoughts, travel instantly across the galaxy, and understand the fundamental forces of the universe in ways that your current science cannot imagine. Nam felt a chill run down her spine. If they were so powerful, why did they disappear? Why did they choose the great silence? The Keeper's expression grew sad. Because power without wisdom leads to stagnation. Your ancestors had become gods, but they realized that being gods was preventing both themselves and the galaxy from growing. They chose to step back, to become lesser beings so that other species could develop naturally. Other species? Asked Dr. Choi. What do you mean? The Keeper waved his hand and the pillars around them began displaying images. They showed alien worlds being terraformed by human technology. They showed primitive alien species being gently guided toward intelligence and civilization. They showed the careful genetic modification of entire populations to help them thrive in different environments. The galaxy you know today was shaped by your ancestors, the Velkari, with their crystalline skin that can process quantum energy, the Thracians with their enhanced neural networks that make them natural strategists, even the peaceful Zephyrians with their ability to communicate telepathically. All of these gifts were given to them by ancient humans. Nam stared at the images, trying to process what she was seeing. Are you saying that humans created the other intelligent species? Not created, uplifted, guided, enhanced. Your ancestors found primitive species throughout the galaxy and helped them become more than they could have been alone. It was an act of love, not conquest. The Keeper moved to another pillar and activated a display showing Earth's solar system. But this wasn't the Earth they knew. This was Earth surrounded by massive space stations, with the moon converted into a garden world and Mars showing signs of advanced terraforming. But the shepherd convinced them that this was wrong. The Keeper continued. He argued that by helping other species, humans were preventing them from achieving their own greatness. He said that true growth comes from struggle, not gifts. Dr. Choi was frantically taking notes. The shepherd? Who was he? The leader of the faction that chose the Great Silence. His real name was An Seung-jae, and he was perhaps the most powerful human who ever lived. He could see possible futures and chose the path he believed would lead to the greatest growth for all life in the galaxy. The Keeper activated another display, this one showing genetic charts. The Great Silence involved more than just hiding. Your ancestors deliberately modified their own DNA, removing the enhancements that made them powerful. They chose to become ordinary humans again, with ordinary lifespans and ordinary abilities. Nam looked at her hands, wondering what her ancestors had given up to become like her. But if they removed their abilities, how are you still here? The shepherd was wise. He knew that the galaxy might face threats that would require humanity's full power, so he built safeguards into your genetic code. Under the right conditions, the old abilities can return. The blocks can be removed. What kind of conditions? Nam asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. The Keeper's eyes seemed to look through her, seeing something in the distance. When humanity faces extinction, when the galaxy is threatened by forces beyond normal comprehension, when the children of your ancestors turn against you in fear of what you once were. As if summoned by his words, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Lieutenant Ryu's voice crackled over Nam's communication device. Captain, we're detecting multiple alien fleets approaching our position. Velkari, Thracian, and at least 3 other species. Their weapons are charged and they're not responding to our communication attempts. The Keeper smiled sadly. It begins. The galaxy has learned of humanity's true nature, and they are afraid. They will try to destroy you before you can reclaim your heritage. Nam felt something changing inside her, as if ancient knowledge was stirring in her mind. Can we defend ourselves? You are already beginning to remember, Captain Nam Hyejin. The awakening has started. Soon you and others like you will understand what your ancestors truly were. The station around them began to pulse with brighter light, and Nam could feel energy flowing through her body. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. The Memory Keeper was right. Something was awakening in humanity, and the galaxy was about to remember why they had once ruled the stars. Outside, The alien fleets were closing in, but Nam no longer felt afraid. She felt ready for whatever was coming. Commander Song Yuna felt the universe differently now. 3 weeks had passed since the Shepherd's final awakening, and every day brought new changes to humanity. She stood on the bridge of her destroyer, watching enemy ships approach through folded space, and she could see their movements before they made them. The suppression compact had grown desperate. 17 alien species now worked together with one goal: destroy humanity before they became too powerful to stop. But they were already too late. Awakened humans were appearing in every battle, demonstrating abilities that broke the rules of warfare. Enemy fleet dropping out of hyperspace, reported tactical analyst Jian Mingyu, though Yuna had felt them coming minutes ago. Valkyrie battlecruisers, 47 ships total. Yuna closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, touching the quantum patterns that surrounded their ship. She could feel the enemy weapons charging, sense the fear and determination of alien crews, and understand the tactical plan they hadn't even finished discussing yet. "They're planning to surround us," she said calmly, "but they don't understand what we've become." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human ships moved in impossible ways, dodging attacks by folding space around themselves. Awakened humans could predict enemy fire and position their vessels to avoid damage that should have been unavoidable. But the most dramatic change came when Lieutenant Ryu Hana's fighter was surrounded by enemy vessels. In the past, she would have been destroyed within seconds. Instead, she reached out with her awakened consciousness and touched the space between stars. Reality tore open like fabric, creating a rift that allowed her damaged ship to step sideways through dimensions. She emerged 17 light-years away in an instant, leaving the enemy fleet staring at empty space where she had been. Dr. Kang Suyun, monitoring the battle from a research station, was the first to understand what had happened. "She didn't just move through space," he breathed. "She moved outside of space entirely. The awakened humans can manipulate the fundamental structure of reality." The implications were staggering. If humans could tear holes in space itself, traditional concepts of distance and time became meaningless. No fortress could hold them, no fleet could corner them, and no weapon could track them once they learned to step outside normal reality. But the most important moment of the war came when General Oh Seok-jin faced the largest alien fleet ever assembled near Alpha Centauri. 200 ships from 6 different species, all armed with weapons designed to crack planets. Their plan was simple: destroy every human world they could find before humanity grew too powerful. Instead of fighting them with weapons, General Oh chose a different approach. He reached out with his awakened consciousness and forced a mental connection with every enemy commander at once. For the first time in galactic history, alien minds directly experienced human thought patterns. The effect was devastating. Human consciousness was vast and complex, evolved not just for survival but for creativity, love, curiosity, and endless growth. The alien commanders, touching this immensity for just a moment, realized what they were truly facing. Many of them collapsed immediately, their minds overwhelmed by the sheer depth of human thought. Others began weeping as they understood that humanity felt genuine love and concern for all living things, even for enemies trying to destroy them. The Valkyrie fleet commander, SciFiPrime, was among those who survived the contact. When he recovered, he sent a message that would change everything. "We withdraw from this system. We cannot fight gods who still remember how to love." But not all aliens reacted with surrender. The Thracian Empire, proud and warlike, saw the human abilities as a challenge to be overcome. They began developing new weapons, creating technology specifically designed to disrupt the quantum fields that awakened humans used. Emperor Thekvar addressed his people in a broadcast that reached across Thracian space. "These humans claim to be our creators, our ancient benefactors. Even if this is true, children sometimes must overcome their parents to claim their own destiny." The Thracians launched a massive assault on human colonies, using weapons that could tear apart the quantum fields awakened humans relied on. For a brief time, it seemed their technology might work. Human casualties mounted as the new weapons proved effective against awakened abilities. But humanity adapted faster than their enemies expected. Dr. Shin Johan, working with teams of awakened researchers, discovered that the quantum disruption weapons had a weakness. They required precise targeting, and awakened humans could sense the targeting systems from across star systems. Captain Lim Soo-young demonstrated the solution during a battle near the Centauri colonies. Instead of trying to dodge the disruption weapons, she reached out with her consciousness and touched the minds of the Thracian gunners operating them. She didn't force a connection like General O had done. Instead, she shared a single memory with each gunner. The memory was of ancient humans helping primitive Thracians learn to build their first cities. It showed human geneticists carefully modifying Thracian DNA to enhance their intelligence and tactical abilities. Most importantly, it showed the love and hope that ancient humans had felt while nurturing their young species toward civilization. One by one, the Thracian gunners stopped firing. They couldn't bring themselves to destroy the children of beings who had loved them enough to give them minds capable of understanding love itself. The war began to shift as more awakened humans learned to share memories and emotions directly with their enemies. The alien alliance found it increasingly difficult to maintain their aggression when they were constantly reminded that humanity genuinely cared about their well-being. But the most significant change came when awakened humans began affecting other species in unexpected ways. Alien crew members who spent time near awakened humans started developing enhanced abilities themselves. The awakening wasn't limited to humanity. It was spreading. A Velkari navigator named Sekthira was the first documented case. After serving alongside awakened human crews for several weeks, she began demonstrating the ability to sense quantum patterns across interstellar distances. Her crystalline skin, originally designed by ancient humans to process quantum energy, was finally fulfilling its true purpose. Similar changes began appearing in other species. Thracian tacticians developed intuitive understanding of multidimensional strategies. Zephyrian telepaths found their communication range expanding to cover entire star systems. Each species was rediscovering abilities that ancient humans had built into their genetic code, abilities that had been dormant for thousands of years. The realization hit the galaxy like a shockwave. The awakening wasn't humanity reclaiming their godlike power. It was all intelligent life in the galaxy reaching its intended potential. Ambassador Park Gina, one of the first fully awakened humans, addressed the Galactic Council in a session that would be remembered for millennia. You fear us because you remember the old myths of sky gods who shaped your worlds and guided your growth. But you are not our subjects. You are our children, and children are meant to surpass their parents. The awakening isn't about humanity ruling you. It's about all of us becoming what we were always meant to be. The war was far from over, but its nature was changing. Fear was slowly being replaced by wonder as species throughout the galaxy began to understand their true heritage and potential. The galaxy was awakening, and for the first time in 100,000 years, all of its children were growing up together. President Ko Young-soo stood before the Great Assembly, looking out at representatives from every intelligent species in the galaxy. The massive chamber had been built in neutral space, designed by architects from a dozen different worlds working together. It was a symbol of something that had never existed before: true galactic unity. 6 months had passed since the last species acknowledged their connection to humanity. The fear and warfare had been replaced by something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans and aliens worked side by side, not as rulers and subjects, but as family members discovering their shared heritage. But celebrations would have to wait. The threat that had driven humanity to create their galactic family was approaching faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Yang Hyun stepped forward to address the assembly, her awakened consciousness allowing her to communicate simultaneously with every species present, regardless of their native language or communication method. The barrier systems at the galaxy's edge are failing, she announced. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive disturbances in dark matter patterns. The Devourers will arrive within 2 years, not the 50 years we had hoped for. A murmur of concern rippled through the assembly. The Devourers were a threat from outside reality itself, beings that existed to consume all forms of life and energy. Every awakened consciousness in the galaxy could feel them approaching like a shadow falling across the future. Admiral Baek Ji-young, now commanding the first truly integrated galactic fleet, presented their defensive preparations. We have 1,200 worlds contributing to the defense effort. The Velkari are providing quantum sensors that can track the enemy across dimensional barriers. The Thracians have developed battle strategies that account for enemies who don't follow our physical laws. The architects have prepared fortress worlds in the galactic core that can serve as final refuges. But everyone knew that traditional defenses wouldn't be enough. The Devourers had consumed entire galaxies, civilizations far older and more advanced than anything in the Milky Way. Their success wasn't based on superior technology, but on their fundamental nature as beings of pure entropy. The answer came from an unexpected source. Jin Wujin, the awakened archaeologist who had become a conduit for the shepherd's remaining consciousness, stood and addressed the assembly. "The shepherd left us one final gift," he said, his voice carrying echoes of ancient wisdom, the knowledge of how consciousness itself can be used as a weapon against entropy. The Devourers consume matter and energy, but they cannot consume the patterns that make life meaningful. The plan that emerged was audacious beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. Instead of fighting the Devourers with weapons or shields, they would fight them with the power of awakened consciousness itself. Every species would contribute their enhanced abilities to create a galaxy-wide network of linked minds. Dr. Nosilgi, leading the technical development of what they called the consciousness grid, explained how it would work. Each species will serve as nodes in a vast thinking network. The Velkari's quantum sensitivity will allow us to process information across multiple dimensions. The Thracians' strategic intelligence will coordinate responses faster than any computer. The Zephyrians' telepathic abilities will maintain instant communication across the entire galaxy. The humans would serve as the central processors, their awakened consciousness capable of understanding and directing the combined mental power of all galactic life. It was the ultimate expression of what ancient humanity had always been. Gardeners who helped other forms of life reach their full potential, but the plan required something that had never been attempted. Every intelligent being in the galaxy would need to voluntarily link their consciousness with the network. It meant giving up individual privacy and autonomy to become part of a collective mind, dedicated to preserving all life. The debate that followed lasted for weeks. Some species, particularly the independent-minded Gorvans, worried about losing their cultural identity. Others feared that the network would be dominated by human consciousness, reducing them to mere extensions of humanity's will. Ambassador Song Jae-hyun, speaking for the awakened human delegation, addressed these concerns directly. "We are not asking you to become us. We are asking you to become the best possible versions of yourselves. The network will amplify your unique gifts, not replace them with ours." To demonstrate their commitment, the awakened humans volunteered to be the first to join the network, linking their consciousness together and inviting other species to examine their thoughts directly. What the aliens found surprised them. Human consciousness in the network was not dominant or controlling. Instead, it served as a foundation that supported and enhanced every other form of awareness it touched. The Velkari were the first to join voluntarily, their quantum-sensitive minds integrating seamlessly with the human foundation. The combined human Velkari consciousness was immediately more capable than either species alone, able to process quantum information in ways that neither could achieve independently. One by one, other species joined the network. Each addition made the whole stronger, creating new capabilities that no single species could have imagined. The Thracians added strategic thinking that operated on galactic scales. The Zephyrians contributed emotional intelligence that helped maintain harmony between different types of consciousness. Even the ancient architects joined, their energy-based minds adding processing power that stretched across multiple dimensions. The first test of the complete network came when advanced scouts of the Devourers penetrated the galaxy's outer rim. These were not the main force, just exploratory tendrils sent ahead to assess the prey they would soon consume. The consciousness grid responded instantly. Millions of linked minds working together detected the intrusion, analyzed the threat, and formulated a response in milliseconds. The network didn't fight the Devourers with weapons. Instead, it surrounded them with patterns of organized thought and meaning that the entropy beings couldn't process or consume. The Devourers, encountering something they had never faced before, withdrew to consider this new type of resistance. Commander Park Sunwoo, now serving as a node coordinator in the network, felt the collective relief as the first probe was repelled. "It worked," she reported to the assembly. "The network can create patterns of consciousness that the Devourers can't destroy." We have a real chance of stopping them. But victory over the scouts was just the beginning. Long-range sensors showed the main devourer force approaching the galaxy's edge, a darkness so vast it made entire star systems seem like candles in an endless night. President Ko addressed the galaxy one final time before the arrival. Our ancestors made the choice to step back from godhood so that we could all grow into something better. Today we make the choice to stand together as one family, united by bonds stronger than blood or species. We are the children of those who loved us enough to let us find our own way. Now we love each other enough to fight for everyone's future. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, but it would not be fought with ships or weapons. It would be fought with the power of conscious beings choosing to preserve life and meaning against the forces of entropy and destruction. The consciousness grid hummed with the thoughts and dreams of trillions of beings, all linked together in the greatest collaborative effort in the history of life itself. Humanity had awakened not to reclaim their role as gods, but to help all consciousness in the galaxy reach its highest potential. As the darkness approached, the galaxy shone with the light of awakened minds working together. The ancient ones had returned, but they had not come to rule. They had come to stand with their children against the night, gardeners and garden united in defense of all that lived and grew and hoped for tomorrow. The new covenant was not between rulers and subjects. It was between family members who had finally learned to see each other clearly, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might bring to their shared home among the stars. The war had been raging for 6 months and humanity was losing badly. Admiral Kim Woo-sung stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another human colony burn in the distance. The alien alliance called the Suppression Compact had one goal: wipe out humanity before they could become dangerous again. But something strange was happening to human soldiers in the fighting. They were getting faster, stronger, and smarter with each battle. Some could dodge laser fire that should have been impossible to avoid. Others seemed to know where enemies were hiding without using any sensors. The changes were small but noticeable. Dr. Yoon Mirai had been studying these changes from her research station on Luna. She believed the awakening that the Memory Keeper had mentioned was already beginning. But not everyone agreed with her peaceful approach to the situation. We should be embracing these changes, Admiral Kim argued during their latest video conference. Our ancestors were gods and we have the right to reclaim that power. Why should we hold back when the aliens are trying to exterminate us? Because, Dr. Yoon replied calmly, our ancestors chose to give up that power for good reasons. Maybe we should understand those reasons before we start a war that could destroy the galaxy. The debate became pointless when long-range sensors detected something massive approaching the Sol system. It wasn't an alien fleet. It was a single object roughly the size of Earth's moon, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. The object settled into orbit around Mars and immediately began broadcasting a message in ancient human language. The translation was simple. Children of humanity, the shepherd calls you home. Admiral Kim assembled the largest human fleet still available and approached the object. Up close, they could see it was another ancient station, but this one was different from the Memory Keeper's structure. This one felt older, more powerful, and somehow sad. Dr. Choi Dongwoo, who had been with Captain Nam during the first contact with the Memory Keeper, joined the expedition to Mars. As their shuttle approached the station, he felt the same energy he had experienced before, but stronger, much stronger. Inside the station, they found gardens that stretched for kilometers, filled with plants from hundreds of different worlds. The air smelled like spring rain and growing things. At the center of it all stood a simple building that looked like it belonged on ancient Earth. The man waiting inside the building was clearly human, but like the Memory Keeper, he seemed more than human at the same time. He was tall and lean, with silver hair and eyes that held the weight of millennia. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had shaped the destiny of entire civilizations. I am An Sungjae, he said simply, though most knew me as the shepherd. I have been waiting a very long time to speak with my descendants. Admiral Kim stepped forward, his hand resting on his weapon. Are you responsible for what happened to humanity? For taking away our power? The shepherd smiled sadly. I am responsible for giving you the chance to become something better than what we were. Please sit. There is much you need to understand. The room around them changed, displaying images of ancient human civilization at its peak, cities that floated in space, worlds reshaped by thought alone. beings of pure energy that had once been human. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. We had become perfect, the shepherd explained. We could do anything, create anything, become anything. But perfection is a trap. When you can solve any problem with a thought, you stop growing. When you can reshape reality at will, you lose touch with what makes life meaningful. Dr. Yoon leaned forward. So you chose to become less powerful? We chose to become human again. Real humans with limitations and struggles and the need to work together to survive. We scattered throughout the galaxy, but not as conquerors. We became gardeners, helping other species grow while we learned to be mortal again. The shepherd gestured and new images appeared. They showed humans working alongside primitive aliens, teaching them agriculture and medicine and art. They showed the careful genetic modifications that had helped species adapt to their worlds. Most importantly, they showed humans choosing to limit their own abilities to avoid overshadowing their students. But you knew this wouldn't last forever, Admiral Kim said. You built the awakening process into our genetics. Yes, the shepherd admitted. Because I could see the future patterns. I knew that someday humanity would face a threat that required our full power. The awakening was designed to trigger when that threat arrived. Dr. Choi had been studying readings from his scanner. The energy levels in this station are incredible. You're not just a recording, are you? You're actually still alive after all this time. Alive in a sense. I preserved my consciousness to guide humanity through the awakening process. But maintaining this form for nearly 100,000 years has been exhausting. The shepherd moved to a window that showed the battle-scarred surface of Mars below them. The threat I foresaw is not the alien alliance that currently fights you. They are afraid, acting out of panic. The real threat comes from beyond this galaxy. The images around them changed to show deep space, the vast emptiness between galaxies. But the emptiness wasn't truly empty. Something vast and dark was moving through the void, consuming entire star systems as it traveled. The Devourers, the shepherd said quietly, beings from a reality where life never learned to create, only to consume. They have been traveling between galaxies for millions of years, eating everything in their path. They will arrive here within 50 years. Admiral Kim stared at the approaching darkness. And you think awakened humans can stop them? I think awakened humans working with the species they once helped raise might have a chance. But only if humanity can unite the galaxy instead of ruling it. The shepherd walked to the center of the room and placed his hands on a crystalline console. Immediately, every human in the Sol system felt something change in their minds. Knowledge flowed into them, ancient memories and abilities that had been locked away for millennia. Lieutenant Lee Gang-hyun, piloting a fighter near Jupiter, suddenly understood how to make his ship move through folded space. Engineer Park Sun-woo, working on a damaged space station, found she could repair complex machinery with her thoughts alone. Across human space, the awakening accelerated dramatically. But with the new abilities came new understanding. The awakened humans could feel the galaxy around them, sense the fear and confusion of the alien species, and understand the weight of responsibility their ancestors had carried. This is what we were, the shepherd said as the humans around him began to glow with inner light. But more importantly, this is what you can choose to become. Your ancestors made mistakes, became too distant from the life they were trying to protect. You have the chance to do better. Dr. Yoon felt power flowing through her body, but also felt the wisdom to use it carefully. What do you want us to do? Unite the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through understanding. The species we once helped raise are our children, even if they don't remember it. They need to understand their heritage before the Devourers arrive. Admiral Kim was changing too, his military instincts expanding to encompass strategic thinking on a galactic scale. The alien alliance will never trust us now that they know what we are. Then you must show them that awakened humanity is not their enemy. Use your new abilities to protect, not conquer. Demonstrate that power guided by love is stronger than power guided by fear. The shepherd began to fade, his long vigil finally ending. I have given you the tools you need. The rest is up to you. Remember, you are not gods returning to claim your throne. You are gardeners preparing for the harvest season. As the ancient consciousness finally dissolved, the awakened humans felt a new sense of purpose. The galaxy was afraid of them, but soon it would need them. The real test of humanity's growth was just beginning. Outside, the alien fleets continued their attacks, unaware that their enemy had just become something far more dangerous than they had imagined. But they would learn soon enough that awakened humanity fought not for dominance, but for the survival of all life in the galaxy.